Today we are going to work on dividing with two-digit divisors. Now, this can appear scary because it just seems like it might be very hard, but it's really not that much different than one-digit divisors. The only thing is you do have to do a little more work. Once you understand the process, remembering to divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and repeat if needed, it really isn't that bad. But there are a couple extra steps, so it's really important you pay very close attention. So when we tackle a problem like this, so we're dividing 9,389 by 41. One thing you also need to consider is that most often when you have a two-digit divisor, your first place value available, which is the thousands in this number, is probably not going to go in because it's only a single digit and we've got a 2, so automatically you know that you can box out the thousands place. Again, remember, this could be a 0 or it can be an X. Some people like to use zeros, others prefer to use an X. I'm okay with whatever you choose to use. So we don't know our 41s like we know our 5s, our 10s, our 2s. We can't just count by 41s or skip count by 41s. So we have to have a little bit of a strategy that we use to get our work or our answer. But I do know that I can count by 40s because 41 is closer to 40 than it is 50. And to count by 40, some of you might be like, whoa, that's not easy either. However, you can count by 4s, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and I'm going to stop there for now. We can add more later. But if I count by 4s and I want to count by 40s, all I then would need to do is add a 0 for each one. Now the purpose of this actually is just to give you an idea of where to go. So if I did round this to 40, this would be our 40s. So then I can ask myself, we know already that 41 does not go into 9, but it will go into 93. Now, we have to see, where does 93 fall in this line of numbers? And it would fall between 40 and 80. So we also have to do a guess and check. And I usually give myself some room for that. When we're guessing and checking, we can't just assume that 41 goes into 93 2 times. We actually have to check it out. So that's why I call it guess and check. So we're going to guess that it goes in 2 times, and we're actually going to do the math right here. So 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8, and it goes in 41 times 2 is 82. If I were to go one more time, it would possibly go over, but let's just guess and check one more time just to make sure. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 4 is 12, and that's very clear that that would be considered over, so it would only go in 2 times. The best part about this is that because I have already done the math here in the guess and check, I already know the multiplication. When I get to the multiplication part, I know that 2 times 41 was 82. So I can go ahead and write that down right away. Excuse me. My next step is to subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1, and 9 minus 8 is 1. Little different than we're used to. We're not used to having 2 digits when subtracting, but when using a two-digit divisor, that happens quite often. So my next step is to bring the next number down. Wowzers, now I have 118. So I'm going to use my guess and check, my little strategy here that I used, and I'm going to look for approximately 118. That falls right about here and right close to 120. So 40 times 1 would be 40. 80 times 2, or 4, excuse me, 40 times 2 would be 80. 40 times 3 would be 120. So let's go. I don't think that it would be that because that would be over. So we are looking at this and look at 41 times 3 is 123. So that is over as well. So our answer is actually going to be that it goes in 2 times. And we already know, because we did the math already, that 2 times 41 is 82. I want you to notice that I have this lined up very carefully. My ones place is lined up, my tens place, because now I need to subtract, and I need to make sure that I do that very carefully. So 8 minus 2 is 6. And here I would have to borrow. You have to remember, don't try to take 8 from 1 and say that it's 7, because that doesn't work. You actually would have to borrow, and this then would still become 11. So it really just makes sense to do some mental math here. If you think about it, you have 2 more to 10, plus 1 more would be 3. Okay, so we have 36 left. One thing that you can always check, that after you've subtracted, make sure this number here that you subtract is always smaller than your divisor. If it is not, then there's a good chance that you could have gone one more time. Our next step is to bring it down. Remember, I'm drawing my arrow, and I'm bringing the 9 down. Now, that's a pretty high number, so I'm going to come here and check where does 369 fit in. And it looks like that I did not do that. So I'm going to go ahead and add 28, 32, okay, 36, add that 0, and then I would actually have 400. So that falls right about here. Okay, and that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that would be 40 times 9. So I'm going to do 41 times 9. One mistake that kids usually make is that they forget to use the actual divisor, 41, when they're doing the multiplying over here, the guessing and checking. Some kids will accidentally use the number up here that we're referring to as our strategy. Please always make sure that the number you're actually guessing and checking is your actual divisor. So I'm going to do this math here. 1 times 9 is 9. And 9 times 4 is 36. And oh, look at that. It goes in 9 times, and 9 times 41, already have the answer, is 369. Then I can subtract to show that I have no remainder. So there's my answer. That was me providing an example for you. I'm going to do one more example before I give you a chance to try this on your own. Okay, here's our next example. I have 6,148 divided by 79. Because again, I don't know my 79s like this. It is something that I actually have to use this strategy of rounding this divisor to its nearest 10. And this 79 is closest to 80. So I am going to do my 80s. And I'm going to start that by doing my 8s. So I'm going to do 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, oops, my pencil, 72, and 80. And then I'm going to simply add a 0. Now this is just a strategy. Sometimes you'll get, as you get used to this, you may not need this strategy, but right now I would really like you to use this strategy. And then make sure you have a place for your guess and check. It's really helpful to set your paper up just like this when you're doing a problem. And yes, I understand it takes up quite a bit of room, but if you keep yourself organized, you'll be a lot more successful. Okay, so I do know that 79 does not go into 6, so I'm going to go ahead and box off or block out the thousands place. 79 also does not go into 61. So I'm going to black out or X out or put a 0 in the hundreds place. So this is telling me right now that my quotient will not have more than 2 digits. The thousands place is blacked off. The hundreds place is blacked off. So as of right now, I will have no number that is larger than 99. It can't happen. So if you do in the end, then you know you've done something wrong. Okay, we're ready to start. So let's look at the dividing. 79 goes into 614. So let's see where 614 falls. Oh, it falls between these two. This is over. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to take 79 times 7. And that will be very helpful there. So to do that, I have 7 times 9, which is 63. I'm going to carry my 6. And I have 7 times 7, which is 49. And then I have to add 6 to give me 55. The most important thing you want to remember is that if I decide to say that 79 goes into 614 7 times, I need to make sure I got as close to it as I could without going over. It does appear to me that I think that I'm pretty close, because I know that if I added another 50, I would already be to 603, and then from there it would potentially be higher. So I'm going to say that it goes in 7 times, and 7 times 79 would be 553. My next step then would be to subtract. I have 4 minus 3 is 1. This is a great situation for you to see. Now, I cannot take 5 from 1, so I do have to actually borrow. So you will have to borrow sometimes when doing this. So then I have 11 minus 5, which is 6. And 5 minus 5 is 0. So I'm left with 61. Let's do a quick check. Yep, it's smaller than my divisor, so that means that I went as far as I could without going over. And now I'm going to bring down my 8. So I have 618. The nice thing about this is I've already have some work. The last one I did was 614. So I'm wondering, is it potentially possible that I wouldn't have to do any more of the actual math? Because that's only 4 numbers away from 114. So I'm pretty sure that it would go in 7 times. And I'm going to write, I already did the math, which is cool. I don't have to do it again because I left my work right there. That's why sometimes working on a whiteboard, you have to make sure that you keep that work there so you can use it again later if you need to. Now I'm going to subtract. I have 8 minus 3 would be 5. I have to once again borrow, and I end up with 11 minus 5, which would be 6. And if my answer down here is less than my divisor, I have no other numbers to bring down, so my 65 becomes my numerator, and my 79 is my denominator. So my answer is 77 and 65/79. Because in 5th grade, we make sure that we represent our quotient and our remainder as a fraction. Okay, I am going to give you more practice problems, but you will have to wait till the next video.